Welcome traders to our post-week market review. So jumping straight into things here from where the market opened up. Obviously we have spoken about this in our midweek technical analysis, but I will briefly go over it again. So the market opened up bullish and then we saw a bearish drop with price eventually finding support at around the level of 4,045. From there, price became bullish all the way up until this level here where we saw price test at 4,145. We saw this area tested for a few times until the Asian session on Wednesday. Price ended up breaking structure. We saw a break with price testing on our next point of interest at around 4,170. And we also saw that retest where price eventually came back to test previous resistance at that level of 4,145 as support. We saw the same sort of thing as we saw when price acted as a resistance at this level, and price ended up testing this level as a support multiple times. We saw some consolidation until we saw a break of structure of this level of around 4,170 again in the Asian session of Friday. So a lot of the big moves or a lot of the break of structures have been happening this week throughout the Asian session. So that Asian session carried itself up to our next point of interest, which was one of our value area highs from a previous established level that we found using our fixed range volume profile. From there, as you can see, price rejected off of this level as a resistance, and we saw a retest of this resistance at around 4,170. From there, price began to consolidate on the lower time frames before we saw an enormous amount of bullish momentum enter the markets at around 11 a.m. GMT, and then throughout the New York session, we had extended volume pushing price higher and higher, and then as you can see where price actually finished, we finished at this level of around 4,240. So a couple of things that I'd like to point out if I go ahead and zoom out here. You can see that price is testing on a level that we don't actually have marked in, but it is a level that we should have marked in. For example, you can see that here we saw price test as a resistance and support on this level. And if we drag it into the future, you will see that price is testing on that point of interest right there. So if we mark that in as a new point of interest, so where price currently is at is testing the same area as we saw here before we saw that initial drop. So price has sort of 100% corrected itself since this bearish drop here. As you can see, we are starting to see some sort of pattern. We saw that overall bearish momentum push price down all the way down to around 4,390. Price then consolidated, pushed up, found that high, testing on sort of a previous point of interest that we've now just established and marked in, and then price continued that same sort of thing as we saw here, but just in a smaller fashion. And you can now see price is pulling out of this level. And with the current momentum that the market has ended on, it's almost inevitable that we are going to see this point of interest broken. If we do see that point of interest broken, now we can actually drag through these points of interests here, as they will now start to become relevant as the market pushes higher and higher. So the next level that we're going to be looking at for price to target is around 4,270. If we see this level hit, we could expect price to act as somewhat of a resistance or just completely smash through and push to our next point of interest, and so on and so forth. But with the overall bullish momentum that we have seen near towards sort of the end of week, sort of all week really, since sort of the London session on Monday, we have seen bullish momentum. Obviously between sort of Tuesday until sort of Friday, so sort of like that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday momentum and volume, we saw bullish momentum overall, but sort of in a consolidating fashion rather than these overall big moves that you see here. And then obviously that recent move there. So is there a chance for bearish momentum? Of course, there's a chance that price tests this area as a resistance, especially upon market open. But I think if price does test this area as a resistance on the lower time frames, I don't see price dropping anywhere below 4,220. If we see that level broken through, then we'll sort of look at our next points of interest to hold price up as a support. Sort of the sort of final fail-safe level for an overall continued bullish move would be that level of around 4,195. If price ends up breaking through that, we see a break of structure of these higher highs and higher lows that have been created overall this week, and then we'll probably see that sort of bearish flip. But if we see price break sort of anywhere at around 4,245, we will most likely see price go to 4,270. So in conclusion, this week we have seen overall bullish momentum with some consolidating bullish momentum throughout the sort of mid Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then price on the Friday picked up momentum again, pushing sellers completely out of the market, and now finishing at one of our main points of interest, a key level that we now want to take into account. So with that being said, I know it's short, I know it's sweet, but there's no point talking or waffling on about things that don't need to be talked about. Obviously, regarding any economic news for next week, be sure to check out the economic post that will have been posted inside the channel. I think we will probably see a non-farm payroll event on Friday, for the coming Friday. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'll give an update in our midweek technical analysis of what we could sort of expect to happen throughout the NFP. So yeah, I'll catch you in our midweek technical analysis video. As always, I hope you've all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.